Welcome back, RohrichKnose podcast. I'm Dr. Rod Rohrich. I'm a board-certified plastic surgeon in Dallas, Texas. And today we're going to talk about plastic surgery without the surgery and adding fat without doing surgery or without taking your own fat. So we're privileged today to have with us an incredible Manhattan board-certified plastic surgeon, Dr. Syringe Shridharani, who is the head of his surgery center called Lux Surgery. So Syringe, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me, Dr. Rohrich.
Good. So surgery in a syringe. So what do you mean by that? And how do you add fat without lipo? And why is that so popular now?
Sure thing. So look, the concept of surgery in a syringe came to me about 10 plus years ago when I was first starting my practice. And the world's first injection to permanently get rid of fat came out, called Kybella.
Right.
And I was like, wow, the only other way to really do this in a very consistent way is liposuction. I've got the power of surgery in a syringe where I can permanently destroy fat. And from there, it just sort of has evolved because we keep seeing newer and newer technologies coming out in the form of a syringe as opposed to always having to use a scalpel. And as a board certified plastic surgeon, just like you, I love using my scalpel. But I also know that patients keep coming and asking for less and less involved and, I guess more dramatic ways, but to still get really great outcomes. So the next iteration of surgery in a syringe for me is something called Aloclay, which is the world's first off-the-shelf fat product. So we can add volume, and it also has something called the extracellular matrix with it to support the volume that we're adding. And that is the new iteration of surgery in a syringe.
So tell me what Aloclay is. I mean, there's several different companies that make it, but Aloclay is different because it volumizes not only with the matrix, but it has cadaver fat, right? I mean,
exactly right. I said I spent the first 10 years of my practice using surgery in a syringe to get rid of fat. Now I'm using the next 10 years to add it back in, right? So that's kind of what it is. So yes, Aloclay is, as I mentioned, it is, and as you said, it is cadaveric fat. This is fat that has been gifted in kind, not unlike cartilage grafts, acellular dermal matrix, which is skin that we use to support an internal bra at times for breast reconstruction or even cosmetic breast work. So this is cadaveric fat that has intact fat cells to add volume back in, supported by something called the extracellular matrix, which we mentioned already exists in an injectable form. So it's really the novelty of the fat that we can add in. So
why do patients like this, or why do you like this more than a filler for doing volumetric restoration?
Sure, absolutely. Well, dermal fillers are amazing. They are this world's second most commonly performed cosmetic procedure, just behind neurotoxins, neuromodulators, Botox, etc. They are excellent, but are really used for bespoke strategic injections, typically in the face, smaller volumes, and yet we can use larger volumes, but they typically also dissipate and incorporate and dissolve or reabsorb in the body after anywhere from about 10 to 18 months, depending on the product. So really, dermal fillers have been meant to volumize and plump up things in the face or in smaller areas. Aloclay is going to be fat that will incorporate into the body, that becomes permanent in the fat that all survives. And on top of that, it is meant for larger volume injections. The smallest syringe of it is 12.5 cc's. So it's, imagine almost 13 syringes of your hyaluronic acid all dumped into one syringe. So it's a pretty substantial amount of volume to be able to get patients a good outcome.
Yeah. Well, let's show me some examples of that. I think that it's intriguing what you said, and and I'll have some questions for you. But I think
so. We were honored to be one of the 5 sites in the world that's doing the clinical trial work. So you have a fair amount of experience with this. But I'm just going to take you through a few cases of some of the. So here's a young woman. 3 months later, you could see on her before and after, and she has these hip dips, and was an area that was kind of that she had from a volume and weight loss, and we just wanted to help smoothen out. These are some of the 3D images, and you can see that here she has it concave, and now we just create something that's a bit straight and better. She wants more. These were one of my early cases, so we wanted to be conservative, but without any liposuction and just one tiny little 2 millimeter incision right here covered in her underwear line, we can create volume in a matter of 15 to 20 minutes. And here she is 3 months later.
And was this
So
100 cc's in each area or in the total?
50 in each area, 100 total.
Okay.
So a conservative amount. Here's a young woman that ended up getting 275 cc's eventually over 2 different treatment cycles. She had bad trauma from a previous ski accident on both of her buttocks. So she had bad fat necrosis and an injury from hematomas and having to have different surgical procedures. She failed traditional modalities. She's too thin to actually have a fat transfer. So here we were able to put volume back into her. Another example of a patient that has a bad scar from another injury. So a lot of unique cases that kind of are coming out. This is a young woman who just wanted to fill this area in and be straighter and smoother. And so again, she doesn't want a lot of volume, but wants some. Here's an example of a breast patient. For example, a young woman who wanted her breast implants out before having her child and before breastfeeding. She's totally deflated, you can see. And here we created a nice, beautiful breast mound by getting some nice volume into the breast. And, we have more and more examples of this. A GLP-1 patient, volume loss from an injection, right? We know that these patients are coming into the practice. I'd already done a breast lift on her. She lost a lot of weight, wanted to lose more weight, and ended up having these big pockets of volume loss after we'd already done a nice breast lift on her a year before. She lost 40 more pounds and lost that volume. Rather than putting in an implant, rather than liposuctioning her where she's already volume loss and has loose skin, in about 30 minutes, I was able to add this volume in and maintain her at 2 months. So these are just a few quick examples of breast and body work that we can do.
So what's in the long-term follow-up? I mean, you showed 2-3 months. Tell us about, I know you're doing that study, and obviously the questions are, does it last long, and is there any issues with it?
Sure. No, I mean, it's a great question. Firstly, we've got 6-month data on the longevity from the clinical study perspective. So we're seeing a lot of stability and no real adverse events, which is really exciting. We still need to follow patients out further. So, look forward to giving you an update, of course, and telling you how it is at 1 year. We're also doing what we call volumetric changes. So we're watching this with 3D cameras to look at where they're losing volume. Right now, we have a lot of stability. And for the breast patients, we're following with mammograms and MRIs to make sure that after they've had it inserted or injected the breast, it doesn't misbehave or cause a problem.
Is the fat, are you saying that this type of fat, for some reason, is as good or better than the use of your own fat in these areas in the body? I mean, is it more sustainable long term? I mean, is that what you're seeing, or is this anecdotal? I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, so early days right now, I feel like our stability of those fat cells is better with the alloclay than typical fat transfer.
And why would that be?
So I think it has to do with the fact that when we do a fat transfer, there is an element of the extraction process, then actually processing it, trying to take as much of the oils and the other parts of the blood and all these different elements away in real time with this fat out of the body. And then we inject it back in. So we get a lot of volume loss, tissue injury, different elements that can lead to less than optimal survivability. Whereas here, we've removed these fat cells, taken them through an alloclay, taken them through cell washing, removing and minimizing a lot of the DNA and the other elements that are immunogenic that could cause a problem, immunogenicity. We stabilize those fat cells with like a surfactant to help fortify the tissue cell, right? These are all things that are done to kind of preserve and protect. And now we have it stable on the shelf. So I think that process of removing the oils, removing the fats, and using these other processes to help stabilize it is what's leading to the product that we have is almost like a refined, distilled version of the fat. That is my hypothesis. And that's what I feel like we're seeing.
Okay. Well, fascinating. I mean, obviously, more to come with the ongoing studies. And I agree, the earlier studies look like they're, and also you can do it in your office. I mean, you can't, it's harder to do fat transfer in the office because it's got to be truly clean. But this is off the shelf. I mean, it's, and how does it differ for them from Renuva, which is, an excellent other product, but that's pure matrix, but much smaller volume. And, that's pure matrix.
Yeah. So I think they really differ because they are different products and they're meant to be used in a sort of different capacity, right? I would not recommend using Alaclay in the face. It's not designed for that. The fat cells are too big. The injection apparatus is a lot bigger, meaning the cannula and the syringe. This is really meant for
body
below the clavicle. We don't want to be using this in the face. And it is fat, 60% fat, 40% extracellular matrix. Renuva is excellent, don't get me wrong, but it's all extracellular matrix.
Right.
Isn't any of the intact fat cells. And it's meant to be used in smaller versions and capacities and primarily on the face. Now, people can use it on the breast, they use it on the body, they use it other places in a hope to induce fat cells to grow.
Right.
But these are not the same product. They have some overlap, but they're not the same product.
Yep, I think that's a good interpretation. I mean, the Renuva is true fat matrix. There's no like fat cells in there per se, and then this was a combination of it. So, I mean, it's intriguing. I'd love to see the science, and I think, it's good to see that you're part of the study because it's going to be talking about longevity, how it can be discernible on future mammography, especially if it's done in breasts, and I think all those things need to be delineated. But I think it's fascinating. So when a viewer is looking for remedies like this and adding fat, what are the 3 take-home messages that they should know and ask their plastic surgeon?
Yeah, so I think really the main take-home messages are, first of all, where do I need volume, right? What am I hoping to achieve? That is definitely a key consideration. Second of all, do I want liposuction? Because I do have patients coming in right now that want their hip dips and buttocks, but I'm telling them, look, you're holding on to some extra in the love handles and the flanks. I really want to do some beautiful contouring to give you the outcome that you're looking for. So we don't want to circumvent the lipo fat transfer pathway if someone actually needs that. But then third, from a breast perspective, it's understanding, are you interested in what is your goal? Are you, wanting an implant type look, or do you want sort of a bit more of a natural look? Because for women who come in that want that real kind of cleavage look with the circle and the roundness, great, that's fine. That's an implant. Other women who are wanting to not have an implant, but want just what their breasts look like, but just plumper, that's a great Alaclay or fat transfer type of procedure. So I think it's just matching all about what it is that you want and what are you willing to undergo to get the outcome you're looking for.
Yep, I agree. And ideal for body, contour deformities, post liposuction, and also for the contouring patients that you showed with the hip dips. I mean, patients can do that safely in in a clean procedure room. That's fascinating. So
we've done 90% of these cases in the clinic under local anesthesia, and we just keep a sterile field, but we don't have to be in my operating room. I have 2 ORs, and we don't even have to do it in those ORs if we don't want to, and we can do it in the clinic room. So it's nice. And one of the fun things is that we do it, have the patients stand up and look in a mirror in real time. And they're looking like, ooh, I want more. Or they sit up and look at their breasts and they're like, well, can you put some more up here? Sure.
That's right. You can't do that in the operating room. You can't do that in the operating room. Yeah, and I think I do. Yeah, I do like that. That's great. Well, incredible innovations and advances that you've seen here from Shasim, and I'll tell you, it's innovation, begins and ends in plastic surgery, because plastic surgery, we don't have an organ. Our organ is innovation, and you exemplify that, Shasim. I think the things you're doing and have done are remarkable. So make sure you see him at Lux Surgery in Manhattan. I mean, he's very talented, and he really is at the cutting edge of all that's new and best in plastic surgery. So give us your thoughts, give us your comments, and until next time, stay tuned to RohrichKnose Best. Stay smart and stay safe. Thank you.